All right, we are live for a Friday edition of the Mike and Mario Show. And as always, excited to be back. Looking forward to connecting with you, Mario, and seeing what's happening out here in this interesting day and time we're living in. But before we move forward, how are you doing, my friend?
Hi, Mike. I'm doing well. Yes, interesting times. And today, we're going to look at the markets first, but I wanted to also point out that JP Morgan, they were able to delete by mistake 47 million emails.
Hmm.
You kind of wonder what they're hiding. And JP Morgan, of course, is the biggest bank in the world, and it's too big to fail. So
Right.
can the people that are moving supposedly all their money from the regional banks trust JP Morgan?
Something to be concerned with. Another thing is when you're too big to fail, your crimes can go. Your crimes can go unnoticed because all you have to do is just pay a fine. So it's one of the things where does crime pay in a sense, or you get my point there. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well. For those tuning in, definitely hit the thumbs up button, show your support for the channel, and should be an interesting live stream today. Hoping to have a guest join us momentarily and get a chance to pick his brains and see what he's keeping an eye on, as well as talk about the precious metals market. But as always, we got about 4, 5, 6 different stories of things that caught our attention that's worth bringing to your attention. So if we're going to kick it off by just talking about some of the recent activity in the markets today. And so I haven't dived much into it, but I know, Mario, you happen to keep your eyes on a lot of these things. So share with us some of the PMI information and what it's indicating outside of what the mainstream media will have us to believe.
Yeah, it seems that though that the mainstream media and Wall Street and the city of London are leaning towards the fact that we're going to be in a recession, and they say it's needed to bring down inflation. In terms of the economy, some European PMIs came out today, and they were weaker than expected. They're showing like a contraction already, and the markets, of course, they're a bit under pressure. The stock markets in the last few days, and Powell spoke again yesterday, and he said they're going to probably raise another 2 times this year. And precious metals, of course, they have been hit hard of late. But today, precious metals rebounded, even though now we're coming back off. Gold traded as low as 1910 overnight, and
Yeah.
then we traded up to almost 1940, and now we're at 1921. Silver is
Mhm.
down about like almost 10% since last week. We're at 22.32. It's up 8 cents. It got up to 22.70, and
Yeah.
I'll leave it to our guest to talk a little bit more about silver, because there's some interesting developments on COMEX. The other part of the market that bears watching, I think, is the bond market here in the
Mhm.
UK. Bond yields are spiking quite a bit, especially in the short end, like the 2-year gilt yield that sets a lot of the mortgage rates. We're now at 523, which is huge.
Mhm.
We were above. We got to 475 last year when we had the crisis in October, September, and the Prime Minister Truss and Kwarteng, they had to resign, and now here we are at 523, and I think the markets still trust that the central banks are going to be able to fight inflation, but they were the same people that said first it was going to be transitory, that there's no problem with inflation. Now earlier this year they thought we're almost through with raising rates, but now people expect that we're going to have to keep raising rates until the end of the year. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think they're going to have a tough time with inflation, and I think rates are going to go a lot higher eventually.
Yeah, and just as you're talking here, pulling up some of the activity for from the last week for the most part, and as we can see here, Great Britain has hiked a lot more than anticipated. Turkey even hiked, Swiss and Norwegian, and China, for whatever reason, happens to be easing somewhat slightly. And so I guess it's that fight against inflation, as the central bankers would call it. And I see here's another. So let's jump into some of the headlines. I want to go to this one here from. Let me green this on the screen if I can. So here we have this one here from Financial Times. It says central banks battle with inflation enters new phase of pain. And just thumbing through some of the headlines here, talking about core CPI figures and how the effort to get back to 2% is what they will use as as a part of the narrative as to why economic growth will slow down, and the likelihood of a recession is probable, and all in their fight to fight this inflation situation here. So central banks are ultimately doomed no matter what, just because there's nothing they can do because it's built into the cake. So, but it's interesting how this headline here talks about more pain to come.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the mainstream, waking up to things. And I spoke about it this morning in my video that if you look at inflation as the creation of currency and credit out of thin air, we've had it in spades since 2008 and 9 with the QE and zero rates. So that inflation is still out there. It seeped through into financial assets, real estate, and other things, private equity, tech. But now it's seeping into real goods that we need to survive.
Mhm.
And just raising rates a little bit like this is not going to do it. Unfortunately, yeah, we need a great collapse of everything to reset everything. But I'm afraid they don't look at it like that. They just think that getting the CPI back to 2 or 3% will do it. But what people forget that things are still going to be higher in terms of cost or price once they
Right.
do that. If they really wanted to bring inflation down, they'd have to get CPI into the -5 or -10 to strengthen the currency. And they're never going to do that. And here in the UK, they talk about having inflation, and inflation or our CPI has been around 10% for the last 12 months. So if you have that, you get like 5 or 4.5, which is still really bad. So I think what they're trying to do, Mike, is what's called financial repression. They're going to try to keep saving rates really low for savers while they inflate away. And that's how governments and central banks inflate away the massive debt that they did that after World War II, and they're trying again now. I got a message from my bank saying today, "Oh, we've raised your rates." But guess what they raised it by? They raised my savings rate from 1% to 1.1. I mean, big deal, right?
Oh man, you're saving 0.1% more. Oh yeah, bank with us. Yeah, and speaking of which, financial repression ultimately will not work due to consumer debt. Consumer debt is what might end up being the catalyst that pops the everything bubble. And so, just as you're speaking, I shared an article earlier. Let me bring it on the screen here. It was entitled "Americans are so indebted that it's holding back the economy." So they're blaming personal consumption debt as what's holding back the economy. Then it says here's 4 key reforms that could give room to breathe. So ultimately, one of the things that stood out here is debt jubilee, trying to ultimately alter the current way the way they measure consumer debt, making it more favorable for mortgages and things like that, student loan debt, by basically canceling a lot of these debts. And that'll help spark more interest for people to go out and borrow to keep this economy rolling. And also bankruptcy law reforms and all types of things they're using as an excuse without admitting that the primary problem happens to be the debt in of itself. So it's just interesting how the narrative behind this is that it's a natural phenomenon. It's not a central bank induced or government fiscal policy induced phenomenon.
Well, the flip side of that is that the economy has been growing because people have taken on credit card debt and other debts
Yeah.
to buy things. So doing this will actually hurt the economy because the U.S. and the U.K. we're so dependent on consumer credit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say, you forgive debt or consumer credit, you are hurting a creditor, and they don't want that. They keep trying to keep it going. So yeah, this seems to me like they want their cake and they want to eat it too. But yeah, I think credit card debt is up to like 1 trillion or more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm not mistaken.
And climbing. And so let me see, as a part of this article here, one of the things that stood out to me, it says the U.S. economy has more private debt than the public debt, with public debt at 123% of GDP and the private sector debt at 165% of GDP as of year end 2022. And so it's just not a good situation all the way around. Okay, let's get through a couple more headlines here. Then we will invite our guests on the screen here. Let's get to just more of the issues that we face that are not going away. So here's the article came out. It says distressed U.S. commercial property assets rise to $64 billion. And it says another $155 billion of potential distress is looming. So there's more and more empty, vacant sky rises here in New York, as well as San Francisco, and pretty much all the metropolitan areas. But this is another result of indebtedness that is brought on by easy money policy, which is no longer easy, I guess. So now it's time to pay the piper. So, but anyway, this definitely shouldn't surprise you whatsoever, huh?
Yeah, and I think also what happened in 2020 to 2022 with people being forced to work from home, that's changed a lot of the the basis for needing all those all that space. And like you said, commercial property or even residential real estate, they act like a bond. And I think the mistake that people made is to think that rates are going to stay low forever, and only because they've been low or going down for like 40 years since the early 80s. But I think that's turned now, and I think there's still a lot of people in denial about that. And that's why I think rates are going to go a lot higher.
All right, so to move to another story here, let's get to this nickel situation. And so the lawsuits are there. Now, how will this play out? Will this be swept under the rug in your opinion or what? Because we talked about this last year when things broke. But will this be any type of newsworthy story that will cause a domino effect into some of these futures markets or whatever?
Oh, it could definitely be, because Paul Singer, one of the biggest hedge fund managers, his firm, they were massively long nickel on the day that the LME decided to cancel the trades. They sold quite a bit and made, I think, $500 million. So that profit was canceled because the exchange just said, oh, we're going to cancel the trades. So they brought a case. It's in the British High Court. And if the LME loses, it could be the end of the LME. And I think there is a commodities and metals exchange in China, but it could disrupt the whole base metal market. It could spill over into other markets like silver, for example. And this is something I guess we can talk with our guests, because we've seen that in the last few days, the COMEX has taken a lot of the COMEX companies that have silver. They've taken 5 million for delivery into the books. So it looks like someone big wants a lot of silver come the July delivery at the beginning of July, end of June. Or maybe the people on COMEX who play the paper game are concerned that the same could happen to silver, and they don't want to be sued. But the LME thing could be very, very interesting. Will the British High Court rule in favor or against the LME? It's possible, and that would be the end of the LME. And because I think there's 12 billion of trades that they canceled, and I think Paul Singer hedge fund, they had $500 million in profits that were taken out from them, and it just goes to show how these exchanges are very leveraged. And on the other side of the trade was, of course, a Chinese. They call him like I forgot the name, but he's a huge metals trader, and basically he was short, and the market just went crazy in March last year, mainly because of the war in the Ukraine. But the LME didn't keep good track of the positions of that I forgot the name of the company in China, and that's what led to the market malfunctioning. And it could be another thing that they use on Comex. They could close the market, suspend trading because, let's say, gold and silver get really crazy, they go up, and they could even suspend trading. And if you have paper positions and the market's going crazy, you can't close out, and that's why I always talk about, and you talk about having physical. So that's the lesson to learn, I think, about the LME. When the ruling is going to come out, I don't know, but it will be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Now we have about 3 or 4 other articles, but I'd rather just get right to the nitty gritty. So I want to go ahead and invite John. Okay, he just disappeared on me, but once he gets back on, we're going to invite John on here. So let's get to a little, if you want to, because some of the stories you have, it's entertaining, but it's not
Well,
really.
there's one that I think was interesting is that Ford Motor Company is going
Okay.
to
Okay.
borrow from the U.S. taxpayer, aka the Treasury, for electric vehicles investment, and that's just another example of governments interfering in the market, and it shows that uh, that this electric vehicle thing and the EV, if it was left to the market, there wouldn't be any interest because why would Ford Motor Company borrow from the government? Well, it means because the private sector doesn't want to lend to it. Can you hear me, Mike?
Hello. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that. I mean, I had a backup. I got too many windows open. Forgive
Yeah,
me,
no,
but I
that's
heard you.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, the Ford Motor Company thing is just another sign of the merger of government and corporations, which we know it starts with an F, right? Probably don't need to say it here.
Yeah, but no, this story is the fact that government's once again incentivizing Ford by borrowing. And then the company they're partnering with is a Korean company, so it's like this is a part of the green new plan that they want to roll out, and it's yeah, it's not going to work out in my opinion, but we'll see. All right, I want to get to man, I feel so unorganized on my end, but let's get to let me invite him in. Let me get him on screen here. So here we have Mr.
Hey,
John Perez. How you doing, my friend?
great. How are you doing, Mike? And how you doing, Mario?
I'm well, thank you. Nice to meet you for the first time, John.
Yeah,
I,
well,
I've
I've been
listened to
watching it.
some of your videos with John Williams, isn't it? Or
David Morgan, David
David? Sorry,
Morgan,
David
and
Morgan.
Mike
Yeah,
Adams.
sorry, David Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah, we did the big crypto conspiracy thing, and it looks like it's starting to unfold now. All of a sudden, Jeffrey Epstein and Jamie Dimon are joined at the hip. And I was just reading an article last night here. There's a really good article out on Wall Street on Parade today, and
Hmm.
it's like I was right. I called it perfect here. They're going to start releasing to news outlets. These are internal emails of all the dialogue between Jeffrey Epstein and Jamie Dimon here, and we have yet to get to the Bitcoin part, but it's now in spiking the football realm now because those two were working together the whole time. And in the crypto conspiracy, I talked about Bitcoin and silver being used. I think BlackRock is the new JP Morgan now, but that's coming to pass here. So yeah, it was great
They
interviews with
they didn't
David
delete
Morgan.
those emails.
Yeah, I think they deleted them, and then they probably went to the U.S. military and the NSA, and then they probably sent them to somebody else. You can never really delete anything. I think that story is I have some big conspiracy on this here. I don't believe that anyone's deleting anything. I think the story is that they're deleting and people are going about their business every day, going business as usual, not realizing that there may be a big sting operation going on right now by the US military. So that's how I see this. And but nice to be on the show with you guys here, Mario. I've been watching you for a while now, and it was really nice when you and Mike got together. The Mike and Mario show. What a perfect combo. When Mike asked me to come on board, I thought, oh, this would love to.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you joining us, man. And as always, we've connected in the past, and as I mentioned, you do a good job of forecasting future events and the timing of things. And so, right now, I'm definitely curious to see what you're keeping your eyes on. Of course, there's all types of things we can try to connect, but for the sake of, I guess, keeping things relatively smooth and simple, silver. You are known as Silver is Money over on Telegram, so definitely go check them out if you guys haven't. So let's connect some of the dots together. Silver, gold, all the events unfolding right now. What are some things that you're putting together right now to give it to us?
Well, here's where I'm at right now, and fair warning to your audience here. I'm out there. I'm way out there. I will say this. My thing is, I believe we're in a very geopolitical crisis-centered oriented market right now, where we all know fundamentally silver should be going straight up. We know all the central banks are printing at the same time they're accumulating gold at a record pace, yet gold sits still. We've got China. In fact, I'm going to be doing a video here pretty soon about how China is going to open between 10, 25, maybe 50 million retail accounts to purchase gold and silver for their citizens. The Bank of China. Big story here. You're going to love it. You guys will love it. We had Costco this week, 3 days ago, announced that they are now retailing gold. I believe Costco will be the largest gold retailer in the United States within 12 to 18 months. They are selling 1 ounce gold bars at $30 under the spot price. I already had people buying it, so it's going to change the entire playing field out there in terms of retail. But they've got 118 million members, 453 stores, and they're putting a limit. You only get to buy 2 ounces per day. I thought that was interesting. So I believe PAMP is the supplier. They're not storing them at the warehouse, so they may have a centralized location, and it's a non-refund policy. But with 118 million members, if only 10% buy 1 ounce for Christmas, which I think when gold gets to 2,200, 2,500, 2,300, and it gets the media, I think we're going to see people basically the non-gold person, like we're gold guys. We're in it. We see it. We talk about it. We have a local coin store. I think the average Costco shopper is going to say, hey, look, gold is up 2,300. Let's go buy some gold bars. I'm going to call up Costco. Let's go price shopping. The first thing, they're $30 under spot. Nobody can compete with that. There's no refund, but if you want to sell your gold, there'll be no problem selling that. So another big story there. So we've got the pieces of the puzzle coming together here with China, with all the central banks doubling down on their gold right now, with Costco getting involved with the market, looking to buy. And then now anyone that watches me know I have a term called bombs move markets. And 17 years ago, in the summer of 2006, when Israel went into Lebanon, I was working at Monex, and I was pure silver guy, and I was just pure silver trader, and I was working with about 16 million in silver, and I had piled a bunch of people in for that event, which came in July, the third week of July. That buildup is there. They've got all the armor going. There's drills going on right now. I believe that's going to light up again in July. That's coming up on July 11th. We've got a NATO meeting that's going to be coming together. NATO is going to be possibly approving Ukraine into the EU or into NATO or Moldova. And there are major military activities going on down there that are going to affect the entire Russian front with Ukraine. So these things are not covered in the media, but they're coming. This is what I do full time. So you can see where this is going to have a big effect on July 11th. NATO has to make a decision in terms of how they're going to respond to Russia. And judging by all the weapons they're pre-moving, all these different weapons, it appears as if they're pre-moving weapons ahead of time as a cover saying we're helping Ukraine, but we're going to see more activity coming out. And I'm starting to see more pictures of more foreign mercenaries being caught behind enemy lines there. So that's a big aspect. And then we've got right now, which is literally live right now, I'm watching it. You've got Zelensky accusing Russia of preparing to blow up the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, which will be another Chernobyl. this is happening. It's a total media blackout in the United States. These events are going to affect the markets, but I'm looking at how far they're on. We're at the point of no return already. And but the way I see it right now, to your question, how do you see the markets? Fundamentally, we see precious metals markets. We have a perfect storm. I mean, the storm is here for precious metals. All they need is a trigger, because as you know, Mike, and as you know, Mario, they don't like to take responsibility for crashed markets. Usually they like to see an external crisis or an external event to say, well, those damn Russians, and I did say in my last interview with David Morgan, I said that there would be an event where the COMEX would be blacked out along with the LME, which you guys just spoke of, and that there'd be some sort of blackout. And now we've got this submarine issue here. And I said, for 7 years now, the media has been saying this. You can look this up. For 7 years, they've been broadcasting that they were afraid that Russia was going to cut the underwater cables. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because everyone's looking for a sunken little submarine out there, which apparently they can't find it. But there's all these military ships out there, so you can speculate on what I see there. I believe we're going to see a blackout. We're going to see the LME, which is already, I mean, the LME is done. And what Mario talked about regarding Singer, the guy lost a lot of money, and he's not going to walk away from that trade. And what else did we find out about the LME? The LME had what JP Morgan in storage. They had boxes of rocks. They didn't have nickel. So, I thought, my goodness, it's like, what do these people think, that we're dumb as a box of rocks here? Here they were trading on inventory. And I feel the same way about the COMEX inventory. I go, there's just a bunch of rocks over there. I mean,
so watch this now. Who's draining? Who's draining? Who's draining? Who's getting physical right now? Who's planning on taking delivery?
That there's 5 million ounces of silver in the last few days have been put out for delivery.
Yeah, I think it'll all be gone on or before, the majority of it should all be gone before the July 11th NATO meeting here, because they know what's coming. This is what happened in the summer of 2006. In fact, I told my entire group, I said, in July of 2006, I will show you military headlines that will be identical to 2006. And that I made a lot of money, because I was in silver. Silver came all the way down to $9.92, $9.85, and it blew up to $21. And I had piled in millions of dollars in silver. We went full leverage, full boat, and we rode that thing. And I mean, I went on vacation after that, but that's going to repeat again. There's so much military action going on right now. I'm looking at this and tearing my hair out, saying, this is not in the news. They're covering it. And if it was, the stock market wouldn't be doing what it's doing right now. Oil, cutting all this oil, and oil, there's no way it's going to stick at the same rate it is. I feel like there's a mega rug pull being set up right now for the retail investor, but not for the physical holder of gold and silver, is going to finally be rewarded here. I think we have a reward coming here. So July is going to be a hot month.
What about Taiwan? Do you see any geopolitical trouble?
Yeah. Well, I was reading an article on how China plans on mining using mines around all of Taiwan to ensure that American ships can't go in there. I believe that now my feeling on Taiwan is that I believe the CCP was already in control of Taiwan, but the CCP and the PRC had a split with Chairman Xi, and the CCP was literally removed on camera. And so what you've got is the PRC, China, looking at what's really in control inside Taiwan. I see there's a potential limited conflict there, but there's no doubt when that happens, they're going to push silver right through 30 and onward to $33 here simultaneously, because it's going to be really hard for anyone to hold down the markets, because there'll be no metal in the COMEX. That's why they're draining the COMEX, in my opinion. They're draining all this metal here physically, because they know this military action is coming. There's no turning back where we're at right now. I mean, it's as long as I've been doing this since 1984. I'm looking at this. I go, what do you mean? It's Armageddon light right now. It's like it's already happening. It's like as long as I've been doing this, I have never seen this much military activity. You've got literally one of the nuclear reactors at Zaporizhia in Russia ex-Ukraine. Now Russia is already mined. They're already hitting it with shells and everything, and it's not in the news. They're not covering this. So there's going to be a big wake up call. But back to your comment on China and Taiwan, I've said this all along that the road to $30 silver, in order to push it through to break from the manipulators of silver and gold, we've got JP Morgan on the ropes right now with the Jamie Dimon and Epstein emails coming out. And the article was clear saying it was sending it out to multiple news sources worldwide. With JP Morgan, they've always had the power to hold the price of silver down. With all these vents coming in, it's going to be very difficult with a drained out COMEX, military events, and we've obviously what appears to be a bull trap in the retail markets of the Dow and the S&P. With the effects of China coming into Taiwan, I've always said this $30 silver is going to come with China going into Taiwan, and they won't be able to bring it down because then we've got the sanctions coming. Biden has already got sanctions coming up into China, against China. And when they do that, I've said that all the companies that Trump gave an opportunity to come home and repatriate, and they'd give them tax breaks, they said, no, we're going to stay in China. China is going to use the same model as Vladimir Putin, and they're going to seize all these American assets. And it's going to be over. All these publicly traded stocks that are manufacturing in China, the minute this goes on with Taiwan, it's going to be over. He's going to throw those sanctions out there. And of course, I'm going to do my Z impersonation. Mr. Biden, you're playing with fire. Because he did warn Biden. He said, Mr. Biden, you're playing with fire. So I tell people, I'm watching this thing. It's going to happen. And nobody's going to catch this one. Okay, who's going to benefit? Of course, if you're in your traditional, the big Dow, big retail stocks, you're going to get hammered. Everything's going to get hammered except what? Well, manufacturing has a reason to come back to the United States because manufacturing is not here. Trump's going to say, I told you so because I told you guys to come home. They didn't come home. And so now I'm looking at the model of Taiwan. In fact, I would say this to your listeners. If you look at the model of what happened between Russia and Ukraine, the sanctions came against Russia, the ruble nosedived, and then they brought gold and oil in there to support it, and then it became a great performing currency. Now you're going to have the same thing happens in the Chinese yuan. We're going to see sanctions come in. When that happened in Russia, Starbucks left, McDonald's left. All those buildings were taken over. They have been repurposed. There's new names on them, like Russian McDonald's, but they're doing their businesses 10, 20% better. So I tell people, look at what happened with Russia. I said, there are 4,000 McDonald's in. I go.
I've seen the names of some of them the restaurants. They kept the same image and logo, changed the name a little bit, and they selling Starbucks with whatever some new name now. So watch this.
Makruski.
It's gonna be in golden arches with a red background. And I said, if Chairman Z wanted to really screw with Biden, he's like, just call it McTrumps because there's 4,000 McDonald's out there. And now you got the Walmart, you got insiders at Walmart selling billions in stock. I said a month ago, I wouldn't own Walmart or McDonald's. Why? Because all the manufacturing in China, China literally has gone there and said, hey, we want peace with Ukraine. And of course, no peace, more weapons. So what Chairman Z was really doing? Okay, so when I go to ask for peace with Taiwan, we know what they're going to send weapons. And that's going to give him the green light to say, it's all hands on deck here. We're going to take military action. We know how the Americans work. We know how the NATO work. They're just going to send more weapons. It's Taiwan, one China policy. He has the model. And I watched this. I said, you know what he's really doing? He's setting up himself for Taiwan. He met with Zelensky, said we would like to have peace. No peace. Well, now he looks like a foreign dignitary attempting to create peace in a time of conflict. Now suddenly one China policy. well, we would like to have peace. Well, you know what Biden's going to do for the military industrial complex?
Mhm.
They're going to send bombs. And when they send the bombs, that's when China's just going to probably, what they're going to put land, sea mines, who knows? You've got Russia. The Russian Navy now is doing full exercises from the north. They're going to have to deal with the Japanese Navy, which is now, an offensive force now. You got the South Korean Navy, and now you got North Korea, China, and Russia all working together here. And none of this stuff is on the news, which just makes I said, this is why we're gonna do so well in the gold and silver area. I said, we're ready. We're all in. I said,
Now
this
watch
at the end of
this.
the day, yeah. What's
So
that?
sorry to cut you off. So
Oh,
let's factor in
oh,
the BRICS activities. And so a
oh,
lot of suspicion that come August, the announcement of some type of currency, will it be gold back? What are your thoughts on that one?
I think it's gonna be gold back, and I think rare earth will be involved. I have a big rare earth strategy. I've been reading feedback here. Rare earth could be involved with a basket of commodities with the Chinese yuan, which is really going to be
Mhm.
great. I mean, we prepared a rare earth strategy around that. Remember, they've got all the. I worked on a rare earth project that was a big project in Afghanistan in 2010, which
Mhm.
that project has gone to the Chinese. And
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time looking at this. Afghanistan has all the rare earth. And America needs a rare earth. Well, you can just imagine when Biden decides to sanction China, it's going to say your business is my business, and our rare earth are not your rare earth. And that's where we're going to see the rare earth industry here in the United States, I believe, is going to move to the upside. So rare earth, as far as the BRICS go, I think the BRICS is gonna take a giant chunk out of the dollar. I mean, it's gonna this is world war. This is
Mhm.
world economic currency war. We're looking at world currency wars. This is what happens before the artillery drops and the bombs drop. The dollar is going to take a gigantic hit. I mean, we're already in trouble. The debt here in the United States, you covered it well just now. We're going to take a big hit, but here's what I see happening here with the BRICS. It's going to be it's going to be more of a psychological effect of countries finally standing up saying no more America, and we're going to see other countries emboldened. You see, the entire Arab alliance has come together.
Mhm.
All Iran has opened up a embassy in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia and Iran are working together again. They had no embassy for 8 years. They are now in each other's backyard. The UAE just bought 75 tons of gold, and they're expanding their embassies. And now everybody's moving embassies where? Into all places, Syria, which was nearly destroyed. And just in the last 3 hours, Chairman Z has come out in China and says they support Palestinian statehood. So,
Mhm.
man,
Well,
we've
I
got a
saw
plate of
sorry, I saw that the president of the Palestinian Authority he was received in Beijing by Z this week.
But
yes.
the full red carpet
These are
rolled out for him.
listen. We got some heavy stuff going here. I mean, I have a thing called I did a video called Defcon Nuclear Theater, and people always say, "Is there going to be a nuclear war?" I said, "It's theater. Theater's not a war." Now
No.
it can turn into something though. But right now we're all watching. Eating our popcorn, watching the movie unfold here, and the number one DEFCON nuclear theater was Ukraine versus Russia, which is unfolding. I made these predictions over a year ago. They're
Mhm.
right on schedule here. DEFCON theater number two is going to be. I'm going to say this right now. They they're the speeches that are coming out of the CSTO, from the Russian government, from Z, and the entire Arab alliance, is that they're going back to 1967 borders everywhere, from the Golan Heights to Syria to Iraq, and they're going back to recoup what they call territorial integrity and legal sovereign borders. Well, I did some
Mhm.
research. I said, I saw the first time ever. I said, and I've been telling people, I said, watch the Golan Heights, because the last time this was hot was in 1973, 50 years ago. So this October, we have a 50-year delta of the 1973 DEFCON 3 moment, when there was the Soviet Union, Russia, and the United States almost went to nuclear war over what? The Golan Heights. And now, what's in the Golan Heights? There's a company out there, look it up. It's called Genie Oil, Genie.
Mhm.
Who's on the board of directors? what's what's his name? Dick Cheney, Jacob Rothschild. I go, so this is gonna get hot, you guys.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
I've
gonna.
heard of that
This,
one. Yeah, and
Genie also.
Rafi Faber is in the Golan Heights. That's where he lives.
Really, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
that area is going to be lit up here soon. I'm watching all the dialogue going back and forth here, and this has been my specialty since '84. And I'm watching. I said the type of weaponry that's moving back and the deals going. There's a lot of military deals that are going back and forth between Egypt, and you can see that there is a wave here coming, and it's in. They're all coordinated with to what you said, Mike, regarding the BRICS. The BRICS are going to take a tremendous chunk out of the power of the dollar. It's going to be so bad. And I'm going to say something. I haven't said this publicly, but I'll say it right now. I've said it on my show many times. I believe the euro is going to cease to exist, and the United States is going to put the is going to replace the euro with the U.S. dollar in order to bring strength back to get what I call a U.S. dollar dead cat bounce. And so that's a big statement. That's a big. I'll watch it unfold. And I'm seeing this. I read some articles that were just obscure little articles there that the U.S. Banking system were asking European bankers to stop doing transactions in euros and to use the dollars. I thought, well, why would they do that? I mean, this is Europe. But I was years ago, as I was told in 2006, that the euro had an expiration date. And so now it looks more and more like this expiration date is coming here because we've got NATO's on the rope. We've got the German economy is in big trouble. You know, the whole world is in trouble here. But the BRICS effect on the dollar is going to be so bad. It is going to affect how the dollar so much that the U.S. government is not going to hesitate at doing what they need to do to hold the dollar because that's their printing press. I mean, what are we going to say? The dollar is not going to just go up in smoke and vanish one day. It's going to be, it's going to be a wet, crazy animal, trying to claw its way at everything here. So I think we have big issues there. But, I touched on a lot of things just now. I think all these things here between now and by July 11th of this year, we're all going to know that week of July 11th. So wait a second here. What is NATO talking about? They're talking about all out war with Russia here. And Russia is doing what? It's like literally they're pouring weapons in Ukraine and it's a giant scrapyard. They're just blowing things up there. I think they've lost nearly 500,000 people there in Ukraine. It's going to be very, very difficult times ahead here, but great for gold, great for silver, great for crude oil because they're going to cut another 1,000,000 barrels there by this because Saudi Arabia needs $85 to $100 oil to build that big, magnificent city they'd like to build in the desert. It's in their budget. So with oil down here at 70, it's going to go up. Any type of conflict between Israel and Iran or with Syria, because it's all the same now, is going to push oil up even higher. But the alliance is going on here. Everyone is jockeying for position there, and it's literally changing every 12 hours. I'm not kidding you. It's been very, very fluid, but it's moving in that same direction there. But the Golan Heights will be in the news here soon, and I went back to the transcripts of many of the speeches that were given, and I can tell right now this move by Chairman Z, and this is a coordinated event. And then, of course, the one thing that nobody talks about is the Iraqi dinar. China now controls the largest oil field in Iraq. A lot of people don't know this, and Iraq is going to be the last decision maker regarding where they go financially because they're under the American thumb right now in control. They're going to have to make an executive decision soon. I haven't seen it yet, but the relationship between Iraq and Syria is very strategic, that land there, because it forms a wall there towards Iran. There's a deal coming, the nuclear deal coming. So, I mean, I could go for hours on this, but to try to summarize it, keep it as simple as possible. That event here, when Iraq makes a decision in terms of which way they're going to go in terms of the BRICS and their relationship with Russia as well as Syria, when they make that decision, I believe we're going to see Iraq reopening their a military base in Iraq, either to Russia or China, and they're going to start buying weapons from Russia also. So I know I just unloaded a lot on you guys there, but this is
Now,
happening right now in real time. And
I have another question for you.
Really.
Another question for you. I'm curious to get your thoughts on recent activity in the crypto space with BlackRock announcement of them putting in for an ETF, and of course, is one after the next. All these major institutions coming in for Bitcoin ETFs, and of course, the market's pumped a little bit. What's is that something to distract us or distract the crypto maximalists, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, I think it's well, that's perfect. So now May 23rd, 28th, BlackRock became the largest shareholder and investor in the Sprott Physical Trust ETF. Well, why would they do that? I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, they're just buying a call option on the upside to silver, and also they're backstopping their potential losses on their paper losses and derivatives at the SLV. And where we don't know. I mean, the shenanigans there. I mean, that's just a cluster over there. And so, why would BlackRock go into silver now? I mean, they went straight to physical trust. Well, because they know silver. They're not there. They're not there to lose money. They're there to make money at the right time. 2 weeks after saying this, because in one of my videos called "The Silver Psyop," I talked about the collaboration between Epstein and Diamond and suppressing silver and pushing up crypto, which they did successfully. And now it's ending. That silver psyop ends with Bitcoin dying and silver flying. BlackRock coming in 3 weeks after saying they're going to be a big investor at, I think they have 170 million shares or 170 million valuation inside Sprott. But 2 weeks after making that, they decided, hey, we're going to apply. They didn't start with apply for a Bitcoin ETF, and suddenly Bitcoin just goes straight up. It's like, but what's Bitcoin backed by? Nothing. I'm not a Bitcoin fan. I've connected. Bitcoin is directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Anyone that's done any homework can see it's clear as day there. He's the first Bitcoin billionaire. His interview is still on Cointelegraph. Bitcoin is bursting with potential. Well, that's what everyone says. All the maxis, they're all repeating Jeffrey Epstein. If you go read the interview, it's like, wow, I didn't know this. I've been repeating Jeffrey Epstein's. It's a sales job. It's a script. It's like, yeah, you said this. Yeah. Oh, did you know that? Yeah, the same guy. Yeah, there's nothing there. And, this is coming to a head. I saw an article that I didn't know if it was a real cover or not. It looked like a fake cover this morning. It said, Economist magazine, how did we miss Bitcoin as the world reserve currency? Can you imagine that? I mean, like,
John, was that real?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's real. I couldn't confirm it, but I saw it and I thought, well, John McAfee, Mr. Security, he was the guy that said Bitcoin is used for tracking and surveillance. Well, if you're in the blackmail business, I mean, how do you keep, you got a whole bunch of people you got to control. How do you surveil them and track them? Give them Bitcoin, now that's out in left field, right? But we'll see how that rolls out here. Personally, I believe that Bitcoin was
question, John. Why do you think BlackRock is applying then for ETF? That they're trying to distract people?
I think a head fake. I think it's a distraction. Yeah, because the minute they said Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin went up. So who's running over there? Well, not me. I think people, and all of a sudden everyone's a Bitcoin bull. I said, this is FOMO. This is FOMO, and I think it's Unusual Whales or Whale Wire saying there's no institutions going into this. And in fact, I talked about this last night. Actually, so Costco makes a decision. Did they go into Bitcoin or gold? They went into gold because gold is money. We all know gold is money. We all know that, we still don't know who Bitcoin was made by. Well, I do, but Bitcoin is I think this thing with BlackRock is a total head fake, and you want to see it. They said they applied for it. Well, yeah, they did, but they wrote the check for silver. Okay, so BlackRock wrote the check for silver, but they applied for a Bitcoin ETF. So they bought the largest physical silver trust. They are now the largest shareholder, and say, we want to buy some more silver. What do? Let's go apply for bets. I think this is Mario. You know how this market works. This is it's like, look over here, look there. It's the market's not here to. They're not going to say, oh, we're going long on silver. Everybody, don't tell. Are we gonna buy some more, boss? Yes. Well, don't tell anyone then. Tell them we're gonna block. We're gonna do some Bitcoin over here. We got all these guys on YouTube promoting it. What the hell? They're free advertisers. Let's go. There's people.
Gordon Brown was the only guy who used to let the markets know in advance when he told the world he was going to sell half the UK's gold.
I remember that. That was something here. So I'm really, I'm sure your listeners now, fair warning, listeners, Perez is in conspiracy land. Okay. Fair warning, but this is where I live. That's what I do this full time. So I think you look at you say, well, Bitcoin's at what? I think it was up it's like $7,000-8,000 in a week. Come on. It's like, come on. The president, well, who's supporting that? In the congressional committee, you can go to Wall Street on Parade, type in Bitcoin, read the article in there. A congressional committee back in, I think it was 2021, the article's still there, showed that 85% of the volume under Bitcoin is uneconomic. It's uneconomic because they're using Tether to print all this Tether to pump this thing up here. So Bitcoin is like waking up in the morning and find out the girl you met at the bar was a blow-up doll. It's like, we got problems. We got problems. You can put all the lipstick you want on this one here. It's not money, honey. It's not money. So I think the BlackRock thing, though, I think is more of a, we just became the biggest shareholder. And I will not be surprised if BlackRock takes over the entire PSLV trust and buys it all up. Won't be surprised. They have the money, they have the power, they will, but they have the reason for why. Because if they suffer from any sort of derivative losses on the COMEX, when it rolls over and all that rehypothecated paper goes up here, and they take a loss on the SLV or anywhere in that area there, hey, we got physical, we're good. We lose on paper over here, silver goes up, we go up. Costco's moving gold. I won't be surprised if Costco moves to the silver area there also. But I personally, my opinion on that is that applying for a Bitcoin ETF, I mean, if you own Bitcoin, you just jumping up and down. I'm going to load up some more here. For me, it's like, I've seen nothing but rug pulls in the crypto sector, but at the same time, they could light one up. They could light one up and say, hey, we bought Bitcoin ETF and we're going to go buy the PSLV and put that silver under that Bitcoin and put an asset behind it, and then really rock everybody's world.
Someone just commented here that Costco UK, they do sell silver and gold. So,
UK is the model, by the way. That's funny you said, because I had a person that said the same thing. I said they've already been selling gold in the UK, and I said, and I said I will not be surprised. And I said this last night. So they're going to start with gold. And then, of course, Costco listens to its customers like, hey, we'd like some silver too. Well, funny you should say that. We sell silver in the UK. Let's fire up. They're smart. The Costco people, logistically, they're smart. They planned this out a long time ago. But what are they anticipating? Think about that, Mario. I mean, Costco, 118 million members. If you do the math, if 10% of their membership buy 1 ounce of gold by Christmas, that's 11.8 million ounces of gold coming off the surface. Hey, if the media says it's time to buy gold and gold makes a run past a record high and the media gets behind, which I expect the media to get behind gold, we're going to see the average person pushing their shopping cart saying, wow, I heard gold's up. It's Costco. Well, we got to go to the website here. And I won't be surprised if they see it in the retail, but I think the average American, the average shopper that's not a gold bug or a silver pro like we are, is going to say, oh, this is great. Well, I'd like to save some money. They're $30 under spot. I think they bought the market. I think by that scheme, they basically put everybody against the wall. So the idea that within a 2-week period that the 5th largest retailer in the world, largest the number one in alcohol distribution. They become number one at everything here. I think the timing of BlackRock going into this silver PSLV, and 2 weeks later Costco. I mean, these are major events. If you'd have heard this, during a bull market, you'd be jumping up and down. But these are obscure stories. This wasn't covered in the media here. I covered it, but the BlackRock PSLV, that didn't really get the media it should have gotten. The reality is the media is never going to recover that stuff. The last thing they're going to be saying is, hey, look at BlackRock buying silver. Jim Cramer will say, oh, it's a good time to buy silver gold.
Well, we are approaching almost an hour, gentlemen. And John, I appreciate you for dropping in. You loaded us with a lot of things to keep our eyes on. And so July 11th seems like that time frame where we're going to really start to see some dominoes fall and things pick up. And so I guess I want to try to get some questions in, but I don't want to go beyond an hour point. But Silver is Money on Telegram. Mr. John Perez, go check him out. And any last thoughts, Mario, John, you guys want to leave us with before we sign off?
All right, let's do this again.
Let's do it again. I'd love to have John as well on my channel. That would be good. Because
that'd be fun. I'm so glad. Like I said, I've watched you guys for a long time, and we've. If you think about where the market's at right now, the things that I'm saying right now, if I'd have said these things last year, it's like, oh, cut the tape, cut the feed on Perez. He's out of his mind. Don't give me any tequila. I think we're living in great times. I personally feel like we're live action heroes in the book of Revelation. That's what it feels like to me. It's like, because I'm seeing all these things just going. I have been reading and researching that my very first paper on the Middle East was on the Iran and Iraq war in 1984. I never stopped doing my research, following military activity in the Middle East, and I based all my trading off of it. And I was very successful, at Monex back in 17 years ago. And I never left the business. This is how in fact, I got into gold at 345, 365 after 9/11. I said, man, there's something going on here. I was watching, and some news article came up, gold hits 20 something year low. It's like 298 gold. I was like, wait a second here. The buildings fall and gold goes down. This is a good sign here. And that's why I started researching it. And we get gold 311, 310. I said, and at one point I said, you know what? I had clients that we were dumping our real estate in 2005 before the crash. 2004, selling some real estate, buying gold, buying oil. And lo and behold, man, that market, kaboom. When I left real estate, I ended up as a broker over at Monex and traded millions in silver there. And it was management couldn't figure out, how is this guy doing what he's doing? I broke every sales record there because I was running into people that had, they were old money that understood geopolitics. And I said, I made a prediction. I go, this summer, these guys are going to go in here. This is going to happen. And it happened. And gold just went. And I'll never forget. I'll remember a day, I think we went up $3.25 in one day. I said, yes, we have had millions in their leverage. I said, and of course, everyone was short silver. Everyone was short silver. We had like 80 guys out there, people walking around in tears, getting slaughtered. I said, I told you, be careful. You cannot. Silver is a widow maker. You got to know what you're doing in this game. But we're gonna be this. We're gonna be here again here soon. And I'm so glad to be on this show with you guys. So when history unravels here, that we're gonna have lots to talk about in July. That's for sure.
Exactly. All right, well, everybody, as always, appreciate you for hanging out with us. And it's our first time having a guest, and he didn't disappoint whatsoever. So I appreciate you, John, for joining us. And other than that, have a great weekend. Stay blessed and get your weight up and just enjoy life and be appreciative of the blessings you have, because times are good overall. Amen. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Mario. Right. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.